This is TWiT.
Let's get some headlines, because we got headlines, and I always like to start with Starliner, but deference to you.
Let's do that. No, let's start with Starliner. It's big news. Yeah? Big news this week.
Well, we hope it's big news today. Yeah, we hope it's good news today. So tell us what's going on.
Yeah, we got our stories, by the way, they're all from space.com this week, but I mean, everyone else covered them too. The
best ones are at space.com.
So I got two kind of interesting things about Boeing Starliner, but I'll try to be really quick. The big news is that it's coming back to Earth. As you and I are recording, NASA and Boeing are getting ready to pop that thing off the International Space Station, land it overnight tonight back on Earth at White Sands Space Harbor in New Mexico. Undocking is around like 6 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time. Landing is around 12:03 a.m. Saturday Eastern time. White Sands, you can watch it all on space.com, but also from NASA on that NASA Plus app that they've got. And that'll be interesting to see. You know, caveat, no astronauts riding aboard. We talked about it before. It's returning back crewless, and that's the other kind of big story that came out this week. In the big pre-landing conference, NASA was pretty much asked, like, what's the deal? Like, what's the mood? Because there were reports, and we talked about them, I think, last week, last episode, about a lot of differences of opinion on the NASA and the Boeing sides of this. And in fact, there was a New York Post article and a few others that really said that there was a lot of really harsh, words, that there might have even been yelling and screaming, about all of this because of the disagreements between, is Starliner safe to undock because of the thrusters? And
excuse me, but just to be clear, this is Boeing saying, hey, we reviewed everything. It's safe, use it.
It's safe, use it.
Saying no. Abundance of caution. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the fundamental disagreement, and apparently it got very emotional. And NASA's Steve Stitch, said pretty overtly that there was tension in the room when they made the decision to do that. So, it's kind of one of those decisions where no one is left feeling good at the end at it. NASA clearly doesn't want to have to make that call. Boeing thinks that it wasn't the right call. And it will have, regardless, it means that changes have to be made to Starliner to avoid a lot of the issues that caused the thruster dropouts, and we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, we've got this landing. Hopefully it goes well. Hopefully there's no thruster issues, and then Boeing can say, look, we told you so. It's fine. If anything pops up, then NASA's caution, was very well warranted, and then they'll go back to see how they can fix it. NASA did say that they have pushed back the Starliner 1 launch. That's the next crewed launch of this vehicle, from February of 25 to August of 2025. 1 year from just the past month as we're recording this. That's when the next one could fly, depending on the nature of whatever fixes on how they do the thrusters for the issues that they've been seeing.
And just a quick coda to this, I read earlier, I don't remember if it was in your article or another one, that the haunted spacecraft effect that they were getting, which really, at first I thought, oh, this is clickbait, but you listen to it, it was weird. It sounded like sonar pings in that thing, and it was just an interference pattern setting up, right?
It was an audio setting, between the ISS and the station. They had these weird noises. They couldn't figure out what it was. There was another bit of audio that came out this week that was very interesting, and the folks at ABC News and Nightline had it first, and they caught, because there's this live stream of downlink from the space station. You can tune into it and hear what the astronauts are up to, and they caught kind of a final conversation between Sonny Williams, one of the astronauts on Starliner. Butch Wilmore is the other. And the ground, as she's packing up Starliner for the last time, because they closed the hatch the day prior to this podcast recording. And she was talking about how good she felt launching on the vehicle, how bittersweet it felt to be packing up simulators in the seats for her and Butch Wilmore to go back to the ground, because they're putting their suits on the ship. They can't wear them on Dragon. So the suit, their Starliner suits are on the capsule coming back to Earth.
Are they stuffed with dirty laundry or something?
I'm not certain.
Or maybe they just pressurize them.
Yeah, they just kind of strap them in. She said that they had like a mass simulator in the seats to be them, but it was a little sad. That's what they trained for this mission, and now they don't get to perform that part of it. But she understood all of the rationale, and is good that the safety is kind of the paramount there. So it's a little bit of a downer. I mean, but I really hope that everything comes off swimmingly for this undocking, so that it'll NASA and Boeing can move forward with the other 6 planned flights that they have.
Ironic you said swimmingly for a spacecraft that's going to come down on dry land. But let's move on to New Glenn. So after all my comments on this show for the last 2 years about supplies going into the New Glenn factory and us waiting for the back door to open, the back door is opening and things are happening.
That's right. This week, Boeing made not one but 2 big announcements for their New Glenn rocket. New Glenn, for the noobs, is a massive heavy lift vehicle that is going to be reusable, will land on a ship at sea. If that sounds familiar, it's because they thought of it first and then sued SpaceX to try to get them to stop.
Oh,
and then
really?
It turned out, yeah, they did.
I didn't know that.
But it turned out that the concept predated both of them, and so SpaceX ended up proceeding, and of course we know where history is done. But this week, Blue Origin unveiled Jacqueline, and that is their new barge landing ship. And they did it on X and showed photos of it and some aerial video of it. It's a very large ship that will hold the first stage of New Glenn when it comes back. And Jacqueline, if you're wondering, I thought it was like a Kennedy reference, but no, Jacqueline is Jeff Bezos' mom, and so they named the ship after her, and it's in Port Canaveral, and it's going to be a base there for the next few tests. Meanwhile, Blue Origin moved the second stage of New Glenn out to their launch pad at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, where they're expected to start doing some hot fire tests in the future. The first stage was tested earlier this summer, and so this is the second stage, and then they're going to pop that thing together, and if everything works right, they have set a launch date in October to launch the Escapade mission for NASA, which is going to launch missions to 2 spacecraft to Mars. I think it's 2 to Mars, and I think that launch date is the 10th of October. Don't quote me on that. It's either the 10th or the 13th or somewhere around there, but it's within the window to go to Mars, so they're going to make it. Is the big story, right? That's otherwise they have to wait another 2 years to go to Mars, and no one wants to do that.
I have it down for October 13th.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
It's not
finally, just a quickie. We have a solar sail story. Now, when I was in my 30s, late 30s, in the 90s, I was working with a group of JPL people called the World Space Foundation that built a solar sail that didn't end up flying, but we spent years developing them, mostly, this deployment mechanism that I think is ultimately what ended up getting used. So there was some actual good work that came out of that. And there's been a couple of solar sails flown, both by the U.S. and Japan, right?
Yeah.
That have worked. But now we've got
Japan sent one to Venus. So,
but it's having some interesting things are going on. What's happening?
Yeah, well, so NASA developed, they launched a new solar sail CubeSat called, and I'm going to make sure I read this properly, the Advanced Composite Solar Sail System. So solar sail, say that 3 times fast, Rod. They call it ACS3 because there's 3 S's like a snake. And they launched it in April, and this week they showed off the very first kind of selfie picture of the solar sail deployed in space. They deployed it in very late August. I guess they had some challenges trying to get it out there in the beginning, but they were able to get it deployed. And now the spacecraft is kind of in a free drift mode, kind of tumbling end over end, while NASA uses cameras on the spacecraft to make sure that the sail is extended properly, that the booms went out, that the kind of that thin mylar type sheeting is extended, so that they can start preparing the navigation tests to see how this new kind of a solar sail technology will work. Can they tack the way that they expect to? Does the spacecraft respond? Is it viable for small payloads, across the solar system. There was a lot of talk that, oh my God, it's like tumbling in space.
Some press outlets kind of use that as a draw, right?
They did, but it was always planned to do that, and nothing is always certain.
Now, why is
missions.
it planned? Is it so they can recover from a tumble?
Test
that.
When think about the CubeSat, it's the size of like a toaster, 12, whatever, and everything is wound up in there. And so all of that has to spring out.
So the momentum of
and you need that to dampen out, and you want to make sure that you don't start firing thrusters or reaction wheels or whatever they're using for orientation before the sail is okay. That it gets snagged and we have to do something else, to kind of majigger it out or not. That's kind of what they're trying to do right now. It's going to take them a few days or weeks, and then once they do that, then they'll orient it the way they need it to be, and then they'll get things sorted.
Well, very cool. And if this
you can see it from the ground, use the NASA app. You can they're up, and you can look up and see it pass overhead.
It's very cool, and if this works out as hoped, it portends for a lot of good things in the future, because this is a great way to go places slowly at first, eventually with some speed, but very energy efficient and so forth. All right. Hey, if you enjoyed this clip, be sure to check out This Week in Space. You can find us on your favorite podcast app or see the link in the description below. See you there.